Hello, welcome back to another video. I'm going to take a little break from snakes. We had a pretty successful response to our blue tongue skink video, so today I'm here to tell you about bearded dragons. This is Charlene. She's adorable. They're often labelled as the perfect beginner pair. I don't agree. They're a lot more expensive, complicated, complex to look after than people give them credit for. But, and this is a really big but, when done properly, and when done right, they're one of the most rewarding pets that you can have. Let's have a look at the bearded dragon. Bearded dragons aren't the beginner pet they're sold as, and I'm here to tell you why. So first and foremost, we need to talk about the fact that these guys are a lot more expensive to look after than people think. Sure, the actual dragon might only cost you 100 quid in a pet shop, but you can't just buy a tank and hope for the best. There's a lot of equipment needed. That's before the food, the day-to-day upkeep, the electricity, and every other cost hidden to have a bearded dragon. The costs can go up and up and up for the dragon itself, depending on the morph, depending on the type, and depending on the breeder and where you're located. But in most pet shops, the bearded dragon itself is the lure, the trick to get you in, the lost leader. Because then you've got to buy the tank, you've got to buy the UV, you've got to buy the heating, you've got to buy the substrate, and you'll probably keep going back there for the food as well. The real cost, making sure that you have a healthy, thriving, beautiful dragon, it's ongoing and it's for life. So I've owned many bearded dragons in my time and they are amazing. They are lovely, they are so interactive, and they're one of the best pets you can have. I just want you to be aware of the facts and aware of everything that goes with them. This little baby, Charlene, until recently, she was called Betty, but I had to go with the Australian theme because Vegemite, my blue tongue skink. And for those too young or who aren't as obsessed with Australian TV as me, Charlene, played by Kylie Minogue in Neighbours. So Betty's owners weren't able to look after her anymore through no fault of their own. They seemed like an amazing family and they really gave her a nice life. A few too many insects, I think, but we'll touch on that shortly. So let's look, firstly, at the equipment that you're going to need if you want to get a bearded dragon. The biggest mistake I see is the bearded dragon starter kit. And that's not your fault. That's not my fault. That's pet shops. They sell a bearded dragon starter kit. That size is nowhere near big enough. And yes, they put in small print on the box. You are going to need an upgrade on your enclosure soon, but why bother? Why not just get the right tank immediately? These guys, you can fill it up with climbing opportunities, you can fill it up with some clutter. They're not going to get scared. They're going to be fine. All it's actually making you doing is buy the same thing twice. And it's not just the tank you need to buy again, it's the UV. Because you've gone from a UV strip light that covers 3/4 of your tank to when you upgrade, it's only covering about a quarter. So the minimum size enclosure, and this is the minimum for a bearded dragon, should be 4 foot by 2 foot by 2 foot. So that's 4 foot wide, 2 foot high, and 2 foot deep. In the wild, these guys' enclosure is huge. It's unlimited. They can travel and run for hours. And for those who don't deal in feet, it's about 120 gallons. And honestly, bigger is better. You're going to want the biggest enclosure you can give these guys. And they'll utilize every inch. You'll see them sulking in one corner one day, then you'll see them running around with a little bearded dragon zoomies the next day. Now what goes inside that expensive box? 2 life-sustaining essentials. You're going to need a basking lamp, which probably either a halogen floodlight, or you're going to need some sort of ceramic heat emitter, something that can give them a hot spot. And you're looking at about 38 to 42 degrees for their basking spot, or about 110 degrees Fahrenheit. And you're also going on an infrared temperature gun, so you can actually measure the heat and check that you're getting it right. You're going to need a thermostat, so that's another expense, because that's going to control the heat and make sure that your ambient hot end of the tank is good. And the other reason you need such a large enclosure for such a small animal is because they need a cool end as well. They need to thermoregulate themselves. So if they want to run off and go in the cool end, as Charlene likes to do for a couple of days at a time before she goes and has a long bask, she needs to be able to do that. And if you've got a really small tank and that heat lamp is really high, how are you going to manage that? Second, and just as vital, is UVB. So you're going to need a UV, probably a fluorescent strip suitable for reptiles. It can't just be one that you'd put in a 1980s kitchen. And they use that UV to create their vitamin D3. So you're going to need, it's essential. Otherwise they're going to end up with nasty things like metabolic bone disease, which is agonizing for a bearded dragon. It's going to cause their bones to go brittle, very similar to osteoporosis in people. And it's going to cause them a long, slow, painful death. And do you want that for such a beautiful animal? No. So you're going to need UV. And they're not cheap to run. And with the cost of living these days and various world events going on, electricity ain't cheap. So you need to think about that. It's going to need to cover at least half to 3/4 of the tank. You certainly can't just have a UV coil bulb at one end with your heat. You're going to want your UV to start at the same end as your hot end so that the bearded dragon is basking primarily. They're getting the UV and they're getting the heat. So a high quality linear bulb from a brand like Habitat or Arcadia is your best bet. And then you know that your bearded dragon's getting the best they can get. Also, it isn't like a bulb. It isn't going to pop and you know that the light is at the end of its life cycle. You're going to need to regularly replace that bulb every 6 to 12 months, depending on the brand, to make sure that the UV is as strong as it can be and giving your bearded dragon everything it needs for a healthy life. Which is another reason for the 4x2x2. Because the distance is also really important. So most of the UV strip lights that I've been talking about are designed for a 4x2x2 tank so that your bearded dragon is getting all of the light it needs. You'll need substrate, and I'm not going into the debate on substrate for a bearded dragon. The one thing that I will say is those starter kits contain Reptile carpet, and that is vile. Even when washed regularly, it's going to harbour all that bacteria. And the one negative about a bearded dragon for me is their poop. It stinks. It's not very nice. I would rather take a retic, a full-size mainland retic poop, than a bearded dragon, because it really stinks. And can you imagine that in carpet? No. You've got the fun stuff to buy as well, so a big branch to climb, you've got hides, you've got rocks, and a bearded dragon pretty much always loves a hammock. So any type of bed or hammock that you've got for them, perfect. So all of this setup, depending on what brands you buy and where you get them from, unless you're shopping around, you're going to be looking from £500 to £800 just to set this up, and that's before you buy the dragon. So you've bought them, you've got everything you need set up and ready. What happens then? You've got to feed them. When they're a baby, they're going to need 80% protein, so that's live bugs. So that's things, and cricket's a bit crap these days. They're a bit of an old school thing, so you're not really wanting crickets, you're not wanting just empty husks. Something like a locust, bio roaches, something they can really get some protein from, and you're going to need to gut load that food. So you're going to need to feed your feeders. Whether you buy locusts or roaches or whatever works for you and your dragon, you're going to need to feed the feeder. And talking about feeders, I'm never going to get off this topic. Talking about feeders, a good rule of thumb is never give them anything that's more than the distance between their eyes. If you're going to give them prey that's too big, it could cause an impaction, it could cause problems for your dragon. So be careful. The benefit is that the leftover salad that I had and the bearded dragon didn't eat at the end of the week goes straight into the feeders' enclosures and they can self-sustain. So I have a colony of roaches that will just keep breeding and it pretty much self-sustaining. So that part isn't bad. But if you don't really fancy breeding roaches and you're getting locusts, you've got to take that into account as well. Each week, fresh locusts from your pet shop or online, wherever you get them from. But it adds up. The other 20% is greens. So, and I'm not talking iceberg lettuce or water-filled crap like that. That does absolutely nothing for them except come out the other end. It's rubbish. You're going to need some dark, real leafy greens. So mustard greens, kale, watercress, pea shoots. This one loves pak choy. However, she's not a baby anymore, so she flips. And she's in a bit of a grump with me, which is why I think she was probably used to too many insects and not enough salad. When they reach 1, you need to flip it and give them 80% greens and 20% bugs. So you may think, that's awesome, bill goes down. But don't forget you've got that light and heat running for about 12 hours per day to mimic their natural habitat and their natural daylight. And of course, vet bills. Don't forget the vet bills. Finding a good exotic vet isn't easy. Well, it might be where you come from, but here, it isn't easy. So that's truth number 1. A bearded dragon isn't a cheap pet, but they're bloody amazing, and I'm going to tell you why. So I've spent the first half of this video talking about the problems, the expenses, and the things that people don't take into account when they're looking at these pets and they're walking around a pet shop and they see it in the same aisle as the hamsters and they're thinking, Mummy, Daddy, please can I have a bearded dragon because they're so cute. They're a problem as well, but my God, are they amazing. And there's a reason they're so popular. They don't just look at you through the glass. They don't just occasionally glance at you. They will run to the glass when they see you. They will want to see you. They want to interact. They don't just tolerate handling. I know a lot of people say that's all it is, but they don't. They actually want to. This one wants to explore right now. She can see the cat tree. I'm actually using the cat's cat ear at the moment, much to the annoyance of the cats who want to be out here. She wants to explore. And it's really quite flattering that they actually want to be with you. They form amazing bonds with their owners. They want to interact. They recognize you. They know you. And it's really cool. And she's probably not the best example, but there's some real intelligence in those eyes. A lot of the reptiles, I mean, you wouldn't think it to look at our channel with the snakes that are pretty much all divas, apart from maybe my Cape Fowl snake. But These guys are not. They're not shy. They're not scared to tell you what they want. Once they're comfortable with you, they'll just sit in your hand, look around, explore, sit on your shoulder while you're watching TV for a few hours. They're a chill out pet. They'll have their moments, of course. I'm surprised she hasn't done it yet. I'm surprised she hasn't taken the leap to the cat tree. But all of that expense that I mentioned before about getting their enclosure right, why'd you do that? Because you want to watch them. You want to actually enjoy them. You don't just want to give them a healthy life, which is the important part. You want to actually see them enjoying it. You want to see them flattened out like a pancake under their basking lamp. You want to see them climbing their branch. You want to see them waving at you. It's so cool. You get to enjoy them from this tiny little frantic baby to a really chilled, lazy adult. They become a real part of your family, a real essential part of your family that you just don't want to go without. And you don't just want to see them survive, you want to see them thrive, you want to see them grow. And they've got some amazing gimmicks as well. There's not just the fact that when they're threatened or when they're scared, their beard can inflate hugely and go jet black, or it's different colours depending on the morph, but you can see that. But they're waving. Their waving is awesome, and it means various things. Normally, it's just I'm here. Around the house, they love to climb stairs. They love to climb the couch. They love to chase the cats when they can. Obviously, as per my cats and snakes video, I'm always in control, and I don't leave that to chance. And that's why we needed to have this talk today. They're an amazing pet, but there's a lot more to them than pet shops make out. If you're prepared to put all of that effort in, the bearded dragon, they're just fantastic. My goal wasn't to scare you, it was to make sure that you're prepared and that your beardy gets as well looked after as this little diva. So they've got a whole range of fascinating behaviours, from the head bob, which can be a rapid or a slow up and down of the head, which generally just means this is my territory, or even hello, I'm here. But you're going to learn to read your bearded dragon because they're all slightly individual. You've got the slow, long arm wave, which is amazing and looks like they're swimming, where they'll alternate between arms. Pretty much a submissive gesture, but it's charming. So that's Charlene, and that's a gentle introduction to bearded dragons, and I hope it's helped you. If it has, you could help us by liking and subscribing, which would be absolutely amazing to help a very new channel out. So thank you so much. It's quite warm today, but it's actually started to rain and Charlene's getting very distracted by the sound of the rain on the catio roof. So we're going to go back inside the house. Thank you. See you soon. Hello. If you want to see more of these snakes and the rest of the snakes in the reptile room, give us a like, give us a subscribe, and I'll see you soon.